Saat Farkı'ndan merhabalar. Her hafta farklı ülkelerden, farklı milletlerden konuklarla gündeme dair, bölgesel ve küresel gelişmelere dair farklı perspektiflere yer vermeye çalışıyoruz ekranda. Bu hafta çok kıymetli bir konuğum var. Hollanda Büyükelçisi bizlerle. Kendisinin aslında veda röportajı olacak. Çünkü görev süresini tamamlamak üzere Türkiye'den ayrılıyor ve Türkiye'ye veda etmeden önceki son röportajını Ekotürk'e veriyor. Eylül 2018'den bu yana Hollanda'nın Ankara Büyükelçisi olarak görev yapan, daha önce de Hollanda'nın NATO daimi temsilciliği görevinde bulunmuş çok deneyimli bir diplomat Marjanne de Kwaasteniet bizlerle. Welcome, Your Excellency. Hoş geldiniz.
Thank you. Hoş bulduk.
Thank you very much. Well, this is a farewell interview. You have almost completed your tenure in Turkey, as the ambassador of the Netherlands to Turkey since 2018.
That's right, yes.
So, you were first appointed when the two countries normalized diplomatic relations after a year-long crisis. So how do you look back on your time in Turkey? How would you qualify the current state of affairs in the bilateral relations? Let's start from this.
Yes. Well, when I arrived, indeed, that was the result of the decision of the two countries to leave the crisis, the diplomatic crisis, behind them. For a year and a half, there had not been any ambassador. They decided that they needed ambassadors, that they needed to have relations at the level of ambassador, and they decided to look forward and leave the crisis behind. So when I arrived end of September 2018, that was the result of that decision to move forward. But of course, during that year and a half that there was no ambassador, we had not been able to establish relations at the highest level and continue to build our network. So I really had to restore the network, to visit people and make it known that we were back as the Netherlands, and that we were happy to be back, and to connect with everyone again. So that was a large focus of my first year and a half in this country. But then, of course, there was the pandemic, and the pandemic has marked my stay, of course, also for a year and a half, almost 2 years. We worked with the foot on the brake, as it were, and we could not do as much as we wanted. But the last year we have been really working successfully on economic and political issues. There were successful visits by various ministers, even the Prime Minister came. Yes. So I think after those 4 years, despite the difficulties of the pandemic, I can look back at a successful stay and on relations that are more intense than they were before, more close, more prosperous.
So we have come a long way, I think.
We have come a long way, yes.
Your Excellency, I also wonder what were the most challenging times or issues for you here, because surely there were also some ups and downs in the relations, even after restoring the relations. Last year there was a kind of small crisis among the ambassadors, Western ambassadors. So I wonder what were the most challenging times or issues for you here during your tenure?
Well, I think there are always complicated issues about, for example, the Turkish-Dutch community in the Netherlands and how that interacts with Turkey and how it is integrated in the Netherlands. Those are problems that are always on the agenda. Then, of course, there are issues around Turkish bid for EU membership. We did move a little bit on that, but not as much as I think we should have moved. The EU restarted high-level dialogues with Turkey, but we could not come to a restart of the accession negotiations during this period. So that remained a difficult area of work.
Mm-hmm. We will come to that EU topic and we will also talk about Russian invasion of Ukraine and its implications. But before, I want to ask you, because since we are talking about now between the relations between the Netherlands and Turkey, they are very important and vital partners to each other, economic partners. Indeed, the Netherlands has been the top foreign direct investor in Turkey for many years. So what does the Netherlands have to offer to Turkey and vice versa, of course?
Well, in terms of trade, we have a lot to offer to each other. There are over 3,000 Dutch companies active in Turkey, and I think the Turkish-Dutch community, or the Turkish people with the Dutch people with a Turkish background, they are an important bridge. They easily connect to the economic sector in this country, so there is a lot of traffic back and forth. And there, I think there's a lot of potential, and I think for particularly your channel, Ekotürk, this is important to know that I think there is huge potential in the agricultural sector, for example. There is huge potential also in the ICT sector, in digitalization issues. So we have been focusing as an embassy on a number of areas in particular, which is environment and climate, digitalization, precision agriculture, which is a very important field in which we work. So these are areas where we can learn from each other, where we can offer each other knowledge and insight, and where companies can benefit.
Your Excellency, you were also the first Dutch female ambassador to Turkey from the Netherlands. So I also want to hear your experience about this. Has this been an advantage or a disadvantage for you? Or does it make any difference? How was your experience?
It's true. For the Netherlands, I'm the first woman being ambassador to Ankara. And it's nice to step in that tradition. I'm proud of it. I mean, it started 410 years ago with Cornelis Haga, the first envoy to the Ottoman Empire. And when I look at the picture gallery in the embassy, I feel proud to be part of that tradition and history. Has it been an advantage or disadvantage? I don't look at it in those terms, you know. I mean, I do my job. I'm a professional. I try to work as best as I can. So I don't see it as a particular advantage or disadvantage. But in general, yes, I'm of the opinion that diversity creates more, makes the world richer, and that it makes this profession also richer. So the more women are part of it, and people of color, younger people, elderly people, diversity is a source of richness. So in that more broader sense, more theoretical sense, it's been an advantage, of course, yes.
Very nice. So hopefully there will be more female ambassadors after you.
Of course, yes, I hope so. Well, the next one will be a man, but
okay.
Anyway.
Still. Okay. So, Your Excellency, now I would like to talk about NATO and latest developments around it, because you previously served as the permanent representative of the Netherlands to NATO.
Yes, that's right.
So how do you see the role of NATO in general before and after the invasion in Ukraine, Russian invasion in Ukraine?
Well, NATO is a defensive alliance. If you look at its founding document, you see that it's there to defend the interest and the territory of the members of that alliance. And that has remained the same before or after. We are a defensive alliance, because Turkey and the Netherlands are both part of that alliance. And we have never posed any threat to Russia. I'm convinced of that. We have not sought any confrontation. On the contrary, we have been very reserved in the way, before 2014, the way we supported the new member states. The new member states were there, but there were no foreign troops or anything on their territory, because we are a defensive alliance. After the invasion of Crimea and the war against Ukraine, of course, some NATO members have become more cautious. The Baltic states, they are afraid. They see a threat coming from Russia to their territories, and they want to be safe and secure that NATO is defending them. And that's what we are continue to tell them, that Article 5 of the NATO Treaty guarantees that an attack on one is considered to be an attack on all of us, so that we will defend them in case such a thing would happen. But we have remained a defensive alliance. We are not at war.
Well, for Russia, it's not a defense agreement, but it's they perceive it as a threat. And the further expansion, I also want to ask you about this. Finland and Sweden joining the alliance, because this further expansion also will be an even bigger threat for Russia, obviously. So, how do you think this European security structure will change after this expansion? Finland, Sweden, and maybe more countries in the future. So what will be the long-term consequences of this expansion for the European security order?
Well, the European security order will be reinforced, particularly on the northern flank. Finland and Sweden are important countries with bordering on the Arctic region, which will be an important region, and even more important if through climate change it becomes a commercial transport line. But these countries have asked joining NATO because they want to feel secure, not because they want to pose a threat. They want to be secure, they want to be part of that umbrella of Article 5 of the NATO treaty, and that has been the main reason for them to ask for membership of NATO. So I think for NATO it is interesting to have these two countries join in because they are solid partners already. They have a versatile defense force. They have contributed in the past to operations. We fought shoulder to shoulder in Afghanistan. So there is already a lot of interoperability between the new future NATO members and the old members. But really this is all about defending our own territory.
Mm-hmm. How do you see Turkey's role, by the way, also, Your Excellency? Because Turkey has also been a key player during the ongoing Russian invasion. It recently lifted its veto, as you know, against Finland and Sweden joining the NATO, but still it holds some reservations. So how do you see the role of Turkey as an ally in NATO, particularly during this period of crisis?
Turkey is a very important ally. It has been in many NATO operations. I mentioned already Afghanistan, but it has also contributed to, for example, the EU operation in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So in that sense, it is playing its role. Of course, in the recent conflict between Russia and Ukraine, because it's in the region and it through the Montreux Convention, it has a role to play monitoring the shipping through the Bosporus. It has contributed to, I would say, avoiding any further escalation. So in that sense, I think it plays an important role. Otherwise, it is a normal member like all the other members. Mm-hmm. It's of course in particular interested in the southern flank, in protecting the southern flank from any threats that can emanate there. That's logical, like Poland is more concerned about their eastern flank. So it plays its role in its own geography.
Do you think Turkey's concerns are fair and also sometimes it's ignored by the West? Security concerns especially, because this is what Turkey has been repeating. We have some concerns and the West is ignoring these concerns. So what is your position? What's your thought about this?
I think that is not the case. Fighting terrorism is an important task of NATO. It's one of its core tasks as well. We have fought together against Daesh. We have fought together against Al-Qaeda. So I think in that sense that is not the right perception. And I'm sure that Turkey itself, the government doesn't see it like this. In NATO, I think they realize that this is an important task of NATO.
Other than the other terrorist organizations, the concerns are more related to PKK, YPG, as you know. So, what's your...
PKK is a terrorist organization also for the European Union.
Yes.
So we do what we can. But of course, we have our legal frameworks and that need to be respected.
Your Excellency, I also would like to ask you Europe's position, because Europe has been criticized over its weak response to Russia since the beginning of the invasion, mostly because of its energy dependence. How do you evaluate the EU response to Russia's invasion from day one? Do you think enough has been done in full unity?
The European Union has just adopted its seventh package of sanctions. And I think it has given a very strong reaction to what has happened between Russia and Ukraine. So the idea that this is a weak reaction is not, I think, based on any facts.
What about the dependence, energy dependence? Do you think, because there are serious plans for cuts, usage, I mean energy usage cut by, from Russia by the European countries, the EU asks members to make major cuts. So there are also plans, of course, to tackle climate change as well on the other hand. So how is the Netherlands specifically doing in this regard? And in general, how realistic do you find these future plans in terms of energy?
I think everyone realizes that it's never, ever a good idea to be very dependent on one supplier, whether this is in the field of energy or whether it's in any other field. I think already during the pandemic we saw that the interruption of trade from China, for example, showed that we needed to have more suppliers of automobile spare parts or chips or whatever. So it is, I think, a general principle to avoid becoming over-dependent on one supplier for critical resources. This comes to the fore strongly in this Russian-Ukrainian war. So we try to reduce that dependence, and I think we are able to do so. And actually it will reinforce our climate agenda, because it will make it clearer that we need to move as quickly as possible to a lesser dependence on fossil fuels. Despite the fact that in the very near future it might be difficult, I think even in, say, the course of 2, 3, 4 years, it will be positive for our climate agenda.
I see. Well, Your Excellency, we have only limited time. We have very little time left, only a few minutes left. So, no conversation with a Dutch diplomat can be completed without the issue of cycling. So, the Netherlands is famous as a cycling nation.
That's right.
So, I know that you are also a biker and an active promoter of cycling. I want to ask you, personally, I am also a biker, by the way. I am biking in Istanbul. I'm trying to survive in Istanbul on the bike. Do you think it's possible to get more people cycling in Turkey? How was your own experience here?
No, I definitely think that we can get more people cycling, but it will not play the same role in day-to-day transportation as it does in the Netherlands, of course. The country is much more hilly, the cities are not so even as in the Netherlands. But as an outing, as doing sports, and in some cities like Konya, which is very flat, it can also serve in the same way as a means of transportation as it does in the Netherlands. So I think it can definitely be developed, and it should be part of any city planning, because it's healthy, it is a way to reduce the traffic jams. So I really wish that Turkey will grow in that respect.
I hope so. Were you biking in Ankara, or did you ever bike in another city?
No, in Ankara I didn't bike. No,
okay.
Here I hardly biked, but when I'm back in the Netherlands in a couple of weeks' time, and I do no longer have my official car and driver, I will be on the bike every day, because this is the way of transportation in the Netherlands.
Biraz Türkçe konuşmak ister misiniz? Türkçe bir mesaj vermek ister misiniz?
Evet, Türkçe öğrendim 4 yıl boyunca ve şimdi biraz Türkçe konuşuyorum. Ama Türkçe çok zor bir dil kalıyor ve daha zaman lazım iyi konuşmak için.
Gayet iyi Türkçeniz.
Teşekkürler.
Siz Türkiye'de başka şehirleri de ziyaret ettiniz zannediyorum. İstanbul
Evet.
ve Ankara dışında.
Evet.
Başka şehirlere de
Evet.
gittiniz.
Evet, çok şehirler.
Bütün Türkiye bitti mi? Bitirdiniz mi?
Bütün Türkiye, ya. Edirne ve Artvin dışında.
Edirne ve Artvin dışında bütün Türkiye'yi gezdiniz.
Evet.
Çok güzel. Nereleri çok beğendiniz? En çok beğendiğiniz yerler nereler oldu?
Kars çok beğendim. Alanya çok beğendim. Gaziantep çok beğendim.
Yemekleri özellikle,
Evet,
yemekler.
Ya.
Gaziantep mutfağı.
Evet, Gaziantep mutfağı en önemli.
Her zaman gelin lütfen. Her zaman bekleriz Türkiye'ye. Size başarılar diliyorum yeni görevinizde. I wish you all the success in your future.
Thank you so much.
Life. Thank you very much for joining my
Teşekkürler.
program before you leave Türkiye. Thank you very much.
Çok teşekkürler.
Evet, bu hafta Saat Farkı'nda Hollanda Büyükelçisi'ni ağırladık. Kendisi Türkiye'ye veda etmeden önceki son röportajını Ekotürk'e verdi. Önümüzdeki hafta yine farklı bir konuyla, farklı bir konukla görüşmek dileğiyle. Hoşçakalın.